Hi and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Z Games. Those of you who are, diligently listening in, and those of you who are currently flicking through the channels looking for something entertaining and who have no doubt stopped, entranced by the sound of my voice. Let me reassure you, I am indeed even more handsome than I sound. Speaking of more handsome than he sounds, who else is in here with me? Why, it's Mr. Jody McGregor.
Hi, Lee.
Look at that guy. You can't, but I can. And I am enchanted.
Oh, thanks. That's really creepy of you.
Yeah, not a problem. Who else is in here with us with Jody?
We're joined by Alana. Hello, Alana.
Hi.
Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you.
And our illustrious leader, Ray.
Hello.
Who is exactly as handsome as he sounds.
So I'm the only one that's not handsome? Oh.
That's a handsome hair colour that you've got going on.
So, yeah, just talk about the hair. That's fine. No, that's fine. I get it.
I'm sorry.
No,
Alana is also very handsome,
Thank
listeners.
you. Thank you.
Yes. We're all good.
All right, we've got a cracker of a show this week, guys. Lee, what will you be talking about?
Why, I'll be talking about Warlock 2, The Exiled, at some point.
Maybe I'll exile you from the studio after that failed introduction.
I doubt it. You need me.
To review that one game.
Yeah.
Jody, you've been playing something as well?
Yeah, I've been playing War of the Vikings, which is about Vikings beating up Saxons in the Middle Ages.
Sounds like fun. And Alana, you have also been playing a game.
I've been playing Trials Fusion, which is the latest installment in the ridiculous motorbike saga.
Excellent. But to kick this episode off, Jody McGregor, would you do the honours of reading the week in gaming news headlines?
I will. Candy Crush Saga developer King has settled trademark disputes with two developers regarding the use of the words Candy and Saga. Stoic Studios, makers of the Banner Saga, said on their blog, Stoic is pleased to have come to an agreement with King regarding Stoic's The Banner Saga trademark, which enables both parties to protect their respective trademarks now and in the future. Albert Ransom, developer of Candy Swipe, also posted a notice saying that his dispute with King had been amicably resolved. King holds the trademark to the word Saga in relation to software and video games, and earlier this year filed an application to trademark the word Candy. The application was withdrawn after the move drew severe criticism from the gaming press and the development community.
This is pretty good. But I still think King are evil. I think that they did this as a kind of a PR spin thing.
Well, what was interesting for me was the comment from the Candy Swipe guy who suddenly was backtracking and saying, it turns out that, while I released my game, they definitely were also working on theirs even before I put mine out, and so these guys are fine with me. And I'm not saying that King, who are ridiculously crazy wealthy, paved the way for this agreement with a boat full of gold coins, but that would make me say nice things about King if they're listening.
But I also, with them trademarking those words, especially with Candy, it's actually supposed to be so that people don't try to make it sound like the same game and trick people into buying something that isn't Candy Crush in the App Store, which I don't think is that evil, because people would do that, which is also evil.
Yes.
Call something like Candy Crumb Saga and then try and, trick people into buying the wrong game. So I don't know if it's that evil, maybe just a bit.
I agree with the laws that protect that sort of thing from happening. But in this case, they kind of went after a couple of guys that weren't really competing. Well, in the case of the Banner Saga, it was a PC game that was completely unrelated and that no reasonable person would mistake for a Candy Crush Saga knockoff. But then there's this Candy Swipe thing, and he didn't knock it off. He had the game in place before they actually launched on the App Store, I think.
Yeah, that kind of trademark trolling is always a bit dubious, even if, I understand that you have to pursue it so that you can, hold on to your right to pursue it when you are actually, properly ripped off. But the way that it has occurred recently where perfectly innocent companies working in their own field are suddenly the target of this sort of thing. Like with, when ZeniMax and Bethesda went after Mojang for Scrolls, like that. That's just it doesn't look good, you know? There's got to be a way to soften that, surely.
See, I feel like maybe the attitude is kind of like, if we stop this person, no one else is going to be doing the bad stuff, but it's that they're targeting a lot of people who aren't intentionally trying to rip them off. Like, I mean, is Candy Crush even a saga? Wouldn't Saga entail more than one game?
Yeah, they have a lot of other games
But
that have
only one
saga.
Candy Crush,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So how is that?
Well, also a saga implies a narrative of any kind.
And there is none of that.
No.
Whereas my game, Flappy Candy Saga, will have a narrative and not be a rip-off of any existing game in the App Store.
I cannot wait for that.
Flappy Candy, though?
Charlie Brooker, British author and media personality, will appear in the upcoming Sniper Elite 3 as a killable character. Brooker's likeness, voice, and motion capture will feature in the game as a token of thanks for his vocal support of the World War II shooter series over the years. Sniper Elite 3 is set for release at the end of June.
Now, the Sniper series is the one that allowed you in the last game to shoot Hitler in the testicles and then watch a slow X-ray shot of the bullet piercing them both.
Yeah, Charlie Brooker wrote a column in The Guardian where he lavished praise on the fidelity of those exploding Nazi testicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can get behind this as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Of exploding Nazi testicles as a concept?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
If somebody's testicles have to be
that's
exploded...
it. Yeah,
You would want it to
that's
be Hitler, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Konami has announced that Silent Hill Origins and Silent Hill Shattered Memories will be re-released for the PS Vita. No release date has been given.
Sweet.
Ray, you've got a Vita. Are you going to
Yeah.
pick either of these up? Because if you do, make it Shattered Memories and not Origin, hey?
Okay, I'll keep that in mind, but I might be a bit too scared.
Yeah, you are a massive chicken.
Yeah.
Shattered Memories is the one that was released for the Wii, so it's the less scary, more tense rather than terrifying one. The one that doesn't, rely on
Oh, that's
jump
tense.
scares.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, look, my view is that the world is pretty scary. There's a lot of evil in like the real world.
Uh-huh.
When I'm trying to escape it, I don't want to go into an even more terrifying place.
That's fair.
That's my
Is
justification.
it Silent Hill where you can't move when you shoot, or is that Resident Evil? I think that's Resident
That's
Evil.
Resident
Resident
Evil.
Evil.
Yeah, because screw that. Not good.
Do they even have guns in Silent Hill?
Not in Shattered Memories, but in the other games, yeah.
Okay.
So what happens in Shattered Memories?
You run away.
That sounds scarier.
Yeah.
No, but, well, yeah.
You're the guy who wrote thousands of words on this series. What's wrong with you?
I don't want to spend another 1,000 words or an hour just explaining the differences between the Silent Hill games, because I will, and that will, bore girls at parties, so I won't.
Uh-huh.
We now have a launch date and a brand new gameplay trailer for Dragon Age Inquisition. The game will launch in Australia on the 9th of October for PS3, 360, Xbox One, PS4 and PC. BioWare has said that the game will feature a more open and explorable world alongside a less linear storyline and a fully voiced main protagonist.
It's a nice trailer.
I
I
was bored.
Well,
Really?
yeah, but you're a cynical man.
Yeah.
I was not bored. I thought it
Huh?
looks beautiful.
No, I mean, it looks pretty. It's just the story feels like something that
I
has been
suppose you
told
can't
before.
adequately put a story of an RPG that's massively changes depending on your dialogue well into a trailer
They assume they've
because
written.
it's choice-based, right?
Yeah, but they've written stuff that doesn't change. They could put that bit in.
Yeah. But maybe those bits are the boring bits. So.
Or, there's voiceover, that always works.
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon Age has always been a series that's kind of struggled to find a hook from game to game, which is why they changed so much from game to game and then had weird Facebook
It's true, actually,
spin-offs and
they're
stuff.
dramatically different.
Yeah.
And this one's going to be even more different.
Yeah, so I hope they land properly with this one, because they've got there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I want a great game out of them.
I like the cover art for this. That impressed me because the cover art doesn't look like every fantasy game's cover art. And rather than having, the main character who you can design completely just look like a boring brown-haired white dude,
Angry guy holding sword.
Yeah,
It's,
I love
uh,
that guy.
it's someone in the distance who is non-gender specific. You see them from behind. They're just someone in armor fighting a million demons.
Yeah.
And they could be whoever you make up.
Negative Space Dragon. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually a really nice design. I see so much crap cover art where it's just like, here's a guy who's sort of blue walking away from an explosion that's sort of orange. There's like 50% of the cover art in the video game store.
He's holding a gun.
Yes. Or a sword.
Yeah.
Or a sword.
A very big sword, too.
Yeah. What if it were both? I think I just made $1 million.
Are you talking about a gunblade?
No.
No,
Two
like
separate
both separately.
things. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think Assassin's Creed 4 kind of did that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm out of here now that I'm a millionaire.
Bye. Nintendo fans are this week celebrating the 25th anniversary of the release of the Game Boy. The iconic and hugely successful portable console was released in Japan on the 21st of April 1989 and went on to sell nearly 120 million units worldwide. Packing 8 kilobytes of RAM and a grayscale 160 by 144 pixel screen, the Game Boy wasn't technically impressive even by the standards of its time, but managed to outsell its competitors, the Sega Game Gear and the Atari Lynx, thanks to an impressive catalogue of games and exclusive rights to the legendary Tetris.
See, I hadn't even heard of Sega Game Gear or Atari Lynx.
That's because the Game Boy is older than you are, Alana.
Yeah, but I had a Game Boy,
Yeah.
and it was great.
I had a Game Gear.
Really? Yeah. I've never met anyone who had a Game Gear. I had like one friend who had a Lynx.
Yeah, I've known Lynx people.
I've never met a Lynx person.
The Lynx
Yeah.
was huge. It was like the size of a skateboard.
The
Yeah,
Game
it
Gear was
was.
a similar size. 6 AAA batteries, you'd get about 2.5 hours, without exaggeration.
Did you get the TV tuner for that thing?
No, but I thought that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, back then, that just blew my mind. TV, like in your palm of your hand?
Yeah.
Awesome.
With a massive aerial hanging up the side of it.
Yeah, so eventually my dad sort of gave in and bought us an adapter, an AC adapter, because, you know, the cost of AA batteries was sort of, you know, driving us out of the house a bit. So, but the thing was that it was a bit wonky, like the connection wasn't right, so it kept just randomly turning off in the middle of games, so that sucked.
How after that did this system possibly fail? I don't understand.
The Game Boy kicked its butt, and rightfully so.
The
Yeah.
Game
Yeah.
Boy, well, statistically it includes the Color and the original Game Boy, but it's like the third highest selling console ever of anything. And I'm not surprised by that. I don't know if I know many people who wouldn't have owned at least one iteration of the Game Boy at some point.
I never owned one.
Did you have a 3DS?
Yeah, but you're an angry
I
old
do have
man.
a 3DS now, but
Yeah.
I was a poor child who didn't have a
I
Game
just feel like Nintendo kicks butt when it comes to portable, and they always have.
Yeah. But did anyone have the Game & Watch?
Yes.
Yeah, you had one of
Yeah.
those? Which one did you have?
I think it was Donkey Kong.
Yeah. For the listeners who don't know, and Alana, you're looking perplexed. It was like an LCD dual screen thing. It looked kind of like the 3DS does, but it was a monochrome thing and it had a clock and a really basic Donkey Kong game in it.
2 buttons, generally.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had one of those, but it wasn't like an official Nintendo one. It had like some car game on it.
Yeah, there were a lot of knockoffs.
Yeah,
Normally only
it was
had
really
one
bad,
screen.
but it was fun.
Yeah.
So that was good, I guess.
All right, that's it for the news. Next up, we'll be talking about Warlock 2.
Why not?
Hello and welcome back to Zed Games, a video game radio show.
That is what we are, Jody, yes.
Lee, what video game have you been playing this week?
Well, on this episode of our radio show about video games, I'm going to talk about the video game Warlock 2: The Exiled by Paradox Interactive.
So, in this game, are you the Warlock or the Exiled?
You're the Exiled Warlock.
Ah,
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right.
I like it.
A potent combination. Warlock 2: The Exiled is available on the PC and I think maybe the Mac, and is probably available on there in some fashion. Hack your system, whatever. I played it on the PC. It is a Civilization-style turn-based game where you have a big map full of hexes, and each hex will have, different resources and things on it. You've got your city, you've got your tiny men, your little settlers. You set out to conquer the map. The difference over some of the other mainstays of the genre is that in this one, yes, you're a warlock or a wizard. I feel he's actually more of a wizard than a warlock, because he's, warlocks seem to do more cruel things, don't
just for my sake, as an
Yes.
aside, what is the difference between a wizard and a warlock?
they? As I am neither.
I see a warlock as being like a different species, whereas a wizard is like a magical human.
Right.
And a warlock's like an other entity.
Right.
Warlocks are just male witches.
That is true.
Yeah, but it just doesn't feel... It seems like there's a connotation there.
Do you get to fly a broom?
No. No. And your default appearance is that of you are pretty much just Gandalf. You have a different name. It's probably, Randolph.
Schmandolph.
Something like that. Yeah. But you've been exiled by an evil king, wizard king, who upset all the other wizard kings and then blew up the universe. And so you are in one end of the universe. You have to make your way through these shattered planes, which is essentially just smaller maps of different regions and environments kind of layered on one another. And connected via portals until you get back to your home plane where you can beat the hell out of the guy who did all this stuff in the first place.
So he didn't blow everything up that well.
No, well, I mean, it was connected at one point.
Can you fix it all? Is that
No.
No,
It's just, it's done. Yeah,
Right.
you just have to deal with that.
Why did he do that?
I think he was a jerk. Yeah.
story.
Typical jerk.
Yeah.
You think that if you were like the parents of a really powerful wizard or warlock, you'd do a better job at raising the child, instilling some morality in them?
Well, you'd hope so.
What if his parents are also jerks?
Yeah.
And they're like, be the biggest jerk you can be,
Then
kid.
there's no hope for anyone.
No, and they'd probably still be disappointed that he blew up the universe.
Yeah.
You know.
Surely there's some relatives there who got affected.
That's it. Yeah, like, the pool ended up in the other universe, like, why couldn't you have been a bit more exacting? So the point is that you have a city, and then you have to make more cities and build things in those cities and then send out little men to fight other people. That's how civilization works.
Who are you
your little
fighting?
men.
Yeah.
I want to know about your little men and who they fight. Yes.
They fight the other wizards who are also about. Your little men in this case are initially planeswalkers who seem to be a collection of dudes who look like hooded versions of the cast of Lord of the Rings. Lots of rangers and striders. They're not that great initially. They're kind of rubbish troops.
So are all the other teams exactly the same as well?
No, they're all everything else. So
So is it single player or?
It is multiplayer,
Right.
but I was playing through the single player campaign.
So these other people that you're fighting against, like other factions,
They're
trying to overtake the Shattered Universe also?
Yes.
Is one
Right.
of them elves?
There are elves, yes. One of them is a rat king, which is great. Not the mythical rat king, more of a king who has, a rat who has a crown and wears a little tiny ermine coat. I don't know how he got that.
Is he similar to the Rat King that's from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah.
No, he's not.
Oh,
he's
that's a shame.
closer, in fact, to Splinter in that he is a rat wearing clothes.
So he doesn't like peanut butter at all.
No, uninterested. Well,
I'm glad you asked that, Ray. I was wondering the same thing. Does he like peanut butter?
it's not mentioned in his bio, and as the game has no diplomacy, there's no way to offer him anything.
I think you should explore that further.
I would like to. Which brings me to one of the interesting points about this game, which is that many other Civilization games offer you a multitude of paths to success, whereas Warlock 2 The Exiled is just one. Kill everyone else, and then you win the game. Which, that's fine, but not super exciting as far as, a game of tactically interacting with other people.
Yeah, hunting down every last peasant in every last corner of the map is a boring way to end a war game.
Yeah.
So is there any focus on like building up a city or anything like that?
Yeah, there is. You get a city, and then every couple of turns you get a chance to build a new thing, and you add that to the hexes around the main city. But the maps themselves don't have that much variety as far as weird resources that you can acquire. It's pretty much, you can put a town down anywhere, and maybe the hills might give you a little bit more production, but there aren't resources within resources, essentially.
So what are your resources usually going towards? Like, if you're supposed to kill everyone, is it usually just weapons or upgrades for your little men?
Yeah, it's upgrades for your men, it's new types of men, it's, fancier numbers beside the equipment that your men carry, and then also spells. And this is where the game actually does differentiate itself, because you don't really research new technologies. Technology is something you just kind of acquire as you build better buildings, but you do have to have your spell book, and you have to fill that with spells, and some of them, do really interesting things. One of them changes the world map itself permanently. So if you find yourself in the undead map, it's not a nice place, and standing around in it will slowly kill all of your men. But if you cast the spell that turns that environment into a lush forest, it's a lot easier to get around. So
is it you controlling the spells, or one of your men, or all of them?
No, it's you doing it.
So you're like some kind of god.
You're the omnipotent wizard king, but the exiled omnipotent wizard king. And you can cast spells using the mana that you acquire by building mana traps and things in your town.
So while you're controlling an individual, if you're playing as the wizard, you know how usually in these kind of games you're controlling a group of people?
Yeah.
Is your wizard king just moving with the group constantly, or
no?
Is he based?
Nah, he's not. I mean, in the same way that, in other games, if you're playing as, the Americans and you technically are Abraham Lincoln, there's no Lincoln on the map.
Yep.
You're just omnipresent.
Yep.
So
gotcha.
Even though your little men are moving through the map and traveling from plane to plane, you yourself are just kind of everywhere, which also kind of kills that narrative that they've got built into the thing about, getting to the final plane and defeating the other wizard, because it's just your guys. But there are other
women.
There are women, yes.
Yay.
Yeah, which is nice. There are hero units that you can hire, and they'll be little tiny, more powerful units of, weird races, elves and goblins and orcs and skeletons and what have you, also roaming around. And then it also has this extraneous quest system, I guess, as a way of countering that there isn't any diplomacy. So occasionally there'll be a pop-up that says, hey, you've got to build a barn or else, and then you have to click yes or no. And if you build a barn, maybe you get a resource, maybe you don't. You're probably going to build a barn anyway. And then other times it'll be, hey, this dragon is a jerk, why don't you go and kill him? And, you can go and kill him. And it didn't really add anything more to me. It seems like it was just kind of linear fluff that they threw in there.
Is that it's not like a sneaky kind of tutorial? You know how if you start playing SimCity, it's like, do this thing because this is important for next time.
No, it's not. There is a tutorial, which is a little bit overbearing, but it is narrated by who I think is the dude who was the old Sean Connery-like guy from the Diablo games.
Oh.
Yeah, that guy.
Stay a while and listen.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's...
Wait a second, it's narrated by that guy?
Yeah.
Suddenly Ray's interested.
Wait up. Yeah, this sounds good.
Yeah, he's like, Wizard King, let me tell you about building units. So that's great. But he does get in the way a lot. And I thought that I would never tire of that guy's voice. But there are hard limits on all things. Yeah. I mean, it works in a way that I was actually not expecting it to. Everything kind of fits together. I'm disappointed that, there's not that depth that you expect towards the end of these games, but it does front load you with a lot of weird stuff. Like you do get donkey knights that you can then cast the flight spell on and they'll fly around. Like that's
sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. So there's a lot of weird stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have the depth that will keep you coming back. Like
do you think playing multiplayer might change that?
These games are always difficult multiplayer just because it takes a long time to complete a turn. Especially this one being so unit heavy. There's a lot of guys that you have to move around all the time, and I think that playing against other people, I have just as little idea what the NPCs are doing from turn to turn as I would playing against another human. And because there aren't any other win conditions apart from kill everyone, I don't see it adding any huge value.
Do you think everyone has to use the same tactics?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, people will approach the spell book in a variety of different ways. So, yeah, that's interesting. Whether they choose to just buff their dudes or, just hit you with straight up offensive spells from turn to turn, or attempt to, combine effects in interesting ways. So I guess that would allow for that kind of creativity that you might not expect from the artificial intelligence. But I don't think that it's going to extend the life of this game super far.
I like a lot of what you just told me.
Yeah.
I think it sounds cool. It just sucks that there's no other alternative win conditions.
Yeah.
That I think that would actually be enough to draw me in.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't review the game based on what it isn't, because what it is still, is quite good. It's just that I kind of, you want a bit more towards the end. You want to be able to, after you've had your first couple playthroughs, to go, I didn't try this other thing. I want to see, how the game changes on this level. Whereas you can kind of have 4 or 5 playthroughs, see that weird stuff at the start, and then you've seen most of the game.
Speaking of like replayability, how much is it?
It is. It's currently just digitally available through Steam. Razer, do the work of a producer.
$29.99.
There you go.
Do you think it's good value?
For that, you get a lot of weird game, and I think if you are already a fan of turn-based Civ-style strategy games, there's definitely something new here, but it might not hold your interest the way that you would expect.
And we've just been talking about Warlock 2: The Exiled, and that is available via Steam for PC, Mac, and Linux.
Oh, there we go.
All right, next up, Jody, you're going to be talking about War of the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Jody, you have been playing an online multiplayer game called War of the Vikings.
Yes, I have. This is a game about Saxons fighting Vikings for England in sort of about the 9th century. So there's a lot of swords and there's a lot of axes, and that's about it. It's just dudes wailing on dudes with sharp lumps of metal. And to keep those sharp lumps of metal that you want to put into the other man's feeling hefty and like they've got weight behind them, it has an unusual combat system. To attack someone, you click and then wave the mouse in the direction you want to attack from. And to parry, you right-click and then wave in the direction you want to block. So there's sort of a dueling system set up there. And when you're in the thick of a melee and you're wailing an axe around like mad and 3 other dudes are doing exactly the same thing and somebody else is shooting at you from a hill with arrows, it gets really chaotic and really messy.
Sorry, so is it first person?
It's a third-person game.
Third person, right, yeah.
It's first person when you're shooting with your arrows and third person the rest of the time, which I think is necessary for this kind of swinging weapons around from left to right stuff, especially because it has friendly fire. So the other guys on your team are going to be hitting you a lot, probably.
That was probably me, actually. I was very good.
Everyone.
I was hitting mostly my own friends more than the enemy. I think I was a pretty good Viking because of that.
Yeah, I think it's in character for the Vikings, maybe not for the Saxons. But the first time I jumped into a game, I accidentally attacked guys on my own team because I didn't realize they were on my team.
Oh.
Because you have squads within your team, and they're different colored. So there were guys on my team who were in the green squad and guys who were in different colored, like the blue squad. So I was surrounded by green guys, and I'm like, that guy is surrounded by blue. I just attacked him.
Oh, no.
Didn't realize that your enemies are actually the guys who aren't outlined in different colors. It wasn't until I got a little pop-up saying,
what's the purposes of the squads?
You can heal people within your own squad, and the idea is that it's supposed to be like a slightly more tactical thing. You stick together with your squad and you get more rewards, like at the end of the match. If you've helped out a bunch of guys in your squad, you earn more coins, you earn more experience points. And you need experience points to unlock stuff, because there are classes. Everyone starts out with a warrior who's just a sword and shield guy, and then you can unlock a skirmisher who has the bow and a champion who has this big two-handed axe. So you want to be unlocking those. And I unlocked them really quickly. It's not sort of there to limit you too much. I guess it's trying to teach you the slightly more complicated things, but within 20 minutes, I'd unlocked both of those classes, and then the ability to make my own class by mixing and matching and choosing, like, well, I want a guy with an axe and a sword.
Can you also customize your warrior's appearance?
Yeah, you can, quite a lot. There's a huge selection of beards, which I was very impressed by. Just a lot of beards. But you can also choose your armor, your colors, your hats.
You are just impressed by an impressive amount of beards in general, though.
Yeah.
Well,
obviously.
You're a beard enthusiast.
Everyone on this show is a beard enthusiast.
That's true. Yeah.
Right, Alana?
So, Jody, you called it chaotic.
Yeah.
Is it fun chaos?
Sometimes, but not often enough.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That sword swinging mechanic means that because you're waving in the direction you're attacking, you're also moving your viewpoint. The mouse also controls where you're looking. So every time you're attacking, you're flailing your face around. It's as if your weapon is attached to your nose and you attack by just like swinging your face left to right or up and down.
So you know what they should use this system for? Swordfish game.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a better use for it, because this is actually quite frustrating. To get better at it, what I needed to learn was to make very small and precise movements of the mouse so that I didn't wind up looking in the wrong direction every time I attacked. And that takes away the feeling of heft that you get from sweeping your mouse around, which is the whole point of having this unwieldy way of attacking. It reminded me of Die by the Sword, that 1998 sword-swinging game, which had a very similar mouse equals sword thing, and nobody used it because it was rubbish and everybody just used the keyboard controls instead.
It was so difficult to use that.
Yeah, and that game sort of died because of its clumsy controls, and it's weird to see them resurrected again because they didn't work the first time, and I don't think they work very well here.
There is one game that I have played that I kind of can't remember the name of. I think it's like Out something, where you play as a bunny. You're a giant rabbit, and you can like kick people and roll and stuff like that, and you have to do that based on how you move your mouse as well. Even if you're landing on a roll, you can like break your back if you land the wrong way. And if you kick someone the wrong way, you can like break your entire leg.
Oh, yeah. Is this you're talking about Overgrowth?
Yes, that's it, Overgrowth. Yes, see that I felt
martial arts bunnies.
Yes, it did it perfectly because it is like you're controlling your limbs and the way that your body is moving rather than actually controlling like an axe or something that you're holding onto. So I found that worked incredibly well, but that game was literally just designed around that one idea. Whereas I think, if you're controlling an axe because it's not connected to you, that it might feel disconnected.
It does, and the feeling of there not being as much heft to the weapons as there should be isn't helped by the latency. The netcode for this is quite poorly optimized. Like, I've watched videos of people in other countries playing it, and even Americans are having a really bad time with the latency, which is a bad sign. Because you expect, like, it's Australia on the internet, sucks to be us. But even Americans are having problems with, like, arrows flying through people and people warping across the battlefield and blows not connecting, and servers occasionally just collapse underneath you and you get booted back to the menu. There's only, there's a server in Sydney that I can collect to and get a latency less than 100, and that's it. That's the only server I can get a decent latency on. And so if they're playing a mode that I'm not interested in, then I'm kind of screwed.
There are only 2 modes, though, right?
No, there's 4. There's a team deathmatch, which is just Saxons versus Vikings. Conquest, where you have to collect points by attacking certain areas. There's an arena mode where once you die, that's it, and a pitched battle mode, which I haven't even tried because none of the servers near me have ever had it turned on.
How many people are there on a server at any one time?
It depends. You can get up to 24. I think you're allowed to change that limit if you own the server.
And there's no AI?
No AI, no bots, which is a shame because sometimes the server that's near me only has like 3 people on it.
Yeah, so with the issues, obviously, with it being, buggy or with the controls not working perfectly, is there a lot of the time people just not hitting each other at all? Like, do you spend a lot of time swinging and just not even making contact with anyone?
Sometimes, yes, that does happen.
Yeah, like in a way that can contribute to that sense of being part of a pitched crazy melee, but I found that it, rather than feeling like I was engaged in a Viking versus Saxon fight, it felt more like being in some kind of like preschool battle around the jungle gym. The maps that I ended up stuck in were all quite small,
Yeah.
and they were so colourful that it felt, it looked like children's play equipment.
Sounds like a South Park episode.
Yeah. And you've got a game about Vikings. I was hoping for epic. Like, why did they not have anything like that?
Did it have a good score at least?
I paid very little attention to the music, but I did notice that the
usually means
Saxon
no.
music and the Viking music was different. So you hear sort of like authentic sounding oldie worldy music for the Saxons, and then for the Vikings it's much more stirring and orchestral stuff. But I did turn the music down pretty quickly because I wanted to hear the voices. Nobody actually talks while they're playing, which is a plus, but you can hear the characters talk. They're all fully voiced. And when you're a Saxon, you hear the other Saxons speak in modern English as they shout their battle cries or
Like,
shout
yo,
about archers.
Yo, jerk.
Yeah, exactly. No, they just shout like archer or look out or I'm bandaging, protect me. But the other team speak their language. So you hear the Vikings speaking in Icelandic. But when you play as a Viking, you hear the Vikings speak modern English and the Saxons speak Old English. And that does add to this sense of immersion when you're like running towards them to hear them shouting crazy stuff and these amazing battle cries. And then you get stuck in a clumsy melee and then you get booted off the server.
Is the game pretty? Like, what are the maps like?
The maps are pretty, but the animations stop the characters from looking like they should. Like, there's this weird sense of disconnection between their feet and the ground. They just sort of seem to be sliding around a little bit. And the developers made an earlier game called War of the Roses, which had these very bloody but quite attractive-looking execution moves, and they've removed them from this. It feels a lot like a simplified version of War of the Roses, and the animations do seem more simple. There's less impressive head chopping off, which is kind of a shame with Viking.
Yeah, like that's what those axes are supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead, you just have to sort of do the overhead swing once somebody falls to try to chop their head off. But if there's anything beside you, like if you fall down near a wall or some rocks, it's quite easy to bounce off because of those pre-programmed execution animations in War of the Roses. You would just clip through if there was a wall there. The game would ignore that. But now, like, I've fallen to my knees, practically dead, and then had someone swing at me half a dozen times and miss because I'm, like, between a column and a wall. And they're just, like, their swords just bouncing off stuff. And then, like, you can get resurrected or just slowly climb back to your feet and be like, sucks to be you, dude, I'm stabbing now.
We're talking about War of the Vikings, which is available digitally for the PC. It's out now. Jody, in 30 seconds, do you have anything else you'd like to say about the game to sum up?
It's fun for a very brief amount of time, but unfortunately that very brief amount of time is hidden away. You have to sort of get to it by being really crap at the game until you figure it out. It doesn't teach you. The tutorial is absolute rubbish. So the amount of effort you have to put in to get to the point where you're good at it is not really worth it, especially when you're struggling with crappy netcode and the latency issues and often getting booted out of the game for no reason at all.
I found that, when the game starts to turn against you, it's no fun. Even, when you're on the losing side, there should still be something there to enjoy. But here, it was just, I guess that's accurate as well. If you were being, wiped out by Vikings, you wouldn't be like, but, it's so atmospheric,
That
right?
wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be fun. But it doesn't help that the respawning is awful, and you often respawn in the middle of three guys who will just kill you again.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, so you don't want to be born on the battlefield. Then.
No.
No, right.
Now, Alana, you have been playing a game all about riding bikes.
I guess it's more about weird, funny physics on ridiculous tracks, but I have been playing Trials Fusion, which is the latest game in the Trials franchise.
Is it the third?
I think it's technically the fourth.
Oh.
Because
There's
there
like
was the original
spin-offs
Trials, which was the crappy one the fifth actually. So the original one, which was the browser-based one that we used to play in primary school, at least I did.
Yeah, you might have,
I
Junior.
did. I did. And then there was Trials HD, which was like a 3D version of that one. And then there was Trials Revolution. And then there was a mobile version, which came out a month or so ago. And now Trials Fusion.
Okay.
So there have been a few now. And I guess the first issue is that they're all exactly the same pretty much. I don't know if I can complain about that because I love these games and I find them really, really fun. But for those who haven't played them before, it's basically a kind of 2D track. Their tracks can last like 1 to 2 minutes, I guess, depending on how good you are, where you have these massive jumps, ridiculous little things that are hard to get your bike over, and you have to balance and accelerate and brake at the right time so that you don't fall on your face and die repeatedly. And they progress in difficulty pretty massively. There's also a lot of Easter eggs and little things that you can find in the map or on a certain track that just make it funny and stupid, I guess. So for anyone looking for a realistic motorbike game, this is not the one. They are not realistic at all. Nobody would ever live, even on these easy tracks. Nobody would live. You would just know, not going to happen. Sometimes you'll land a jump when you're like 100 meters in the air and you don't somehow break your wrists and then break your shoulders and then just crumble into bits and your bike doesn't break. It doesn't make sense. But that's not the point, I guess.
It's sort of like a platformer, isn't it? It's like
a puzzle platformer, yeah, but disguised as a motorbike game.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah, because there's some things that you have to get up a certain amount of speed and land into a previous jump perfectly so that you can actually get onto the next one. So it's not a motorbike game, really. There's just motorbikes in it. So
Yeah.
I don't really even know what the genre would be. I want to call it a puzzle platformer physics-based motorbike game, but I feel like that tagline's a bit too long.
But it's really specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no other games like it that I've played either. And this new one is exactly the same as all the others. It's more futuristic. The art style's a little bit different. The music's a little bit different. And there's this AI that talks to you during the tracks, which kind of creates this sort of narrative-ish thing, and they're a little bit funny. There's this weird kind of relationship going on where one is kind of like GLaDOS from Portal, and she kind of hits on you a little, which is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay, she's just AI. And then there's another guy who's AI who always announces the weather, and then the female AI will be like, don't listen to him. You're like, but okay, I don't care. And so I guess the real appeal of it is just having more of these crazy tracks to explore when a lot of the time you don't even know what to expect by the end of it or what's going to happen.
What's the
it's
weirdest
exciting
thing you've seen?
There was one where I was like, because I recorded all my gameplay, there was one where the first time you start off on this little pedestal, you just get shot up into the air, and then you're like, hold up, what am I doing in the air? And then you realize that there's like a ramp just right behind you that you have to perfectly land on, and when you first see that, you probably wouldn't know because you don't know what to look out for, so you don't know how to balance yourself to land properly. So that entire track just had like moving platforms, and the AI was like, the body corporate would like people to be aware that there are moving platforms, and so you have to look out for that kind of stuff. And then in that same level, I landed on the wrong thing and then ended up finding this little portal that took me into this other room that was completely black but full of cubes. So you had to like ride from one cube to the next cube, and I couldn't get past the third one because they were like all so different that you would have to just maneuver your bike in the most ridiculous way to get through it. But it was interesting. It was exciting, I guess. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely, original, but very much the same.
It seems like this would be a good fit for someone who's maybe plays a lot of games. Maybe they're a video game reviewer by trade.
Someone who's jaded.
Someone who's a bit jaded. And this sounds like kind of refreshing, like a game where you put it on and you just don't know what's going to come at you.
I suppose, yeah, you really don't. And a lot of the appeal of it beyond the creativity in the levels is that it's very competitive. So it tells you what times your friends have gotten, or has a little leaderboard telling you what rank you are in the world. So that always gives you time to go back. I've had friends on Twitter be like, hey, overtook your scores. And I'm like, really? So then you go back through and play them again, and they're hugely replayable. And especially because there are so many little Easter eggs and things like that I was losing this one track and I couldn't figure out how all my friends were beating me, and then I ended up beating them by like nearly 20 seconds because I found this little rocket launcher thing where if you like landed on this one pipe for a certain amount of time, it would just like launch you nearly end of the track. And I was like, sweet! And none of them have figured that out yet, so that's great. There's a lot of stuff that would draw you in, and I feel like for someone who plays a lot of video games, they are great little breaks from the kind of hard work that some other games can be, because while they're very challenging, it's challenging for like 2 to 5 minutes per track maximum.
They're really funny, right?
They are funny. This one's funnier than the others as well because it takes the ridiculous to new heights, where at the end of a track you will always end up just dying. I was playing it in front of my uncle, actually, and he was like, then why do you bother? It's not a good reward. Like, that's not the point. You're missing the point.
It's a valorous death if you won.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
You've
it.
earned it.
He's like,
You
well,
go
you
to
just
Valhalla
die.
now.
You've been playing too much War of the Vikings.
But yeah, some of them, when you die, you'll like just drive into this separate garage and then there'll be an explosion and then a bunch of crap will fall on you and then you'll just like fall through this massive hole. So they've tried to take the ridiculous stuff in these games that were already there as a result of the difficulty and make it actually funny, which is something that I was pretty impressed with.
Yeah, watching the bike fall on top of that rider over and over again, and then they just sort of ragdoll around in agony is funny. I've just been watching videos of other people playing this.
They twitched a little in the others, like when you fall off the bike, they always move a little bit as part of some of the skill games, and the skill games are like you can try and fall as far as you can by just like spinning the guy after he falls off the bike. But in Trials Fusion, he thrusts, like he actually thrusts. So when he's just laying there dead, he's not just slightly twitching anymore, it's actually like hip thrusts, and that even I wonder if they did that to be funny, because it is.
So he's like having a seizure instead.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, the skill games as well, as I should mention, there are a lot more of them. They had them in all the other Trials games, quite extensively in Revolutions. I think it's Revolution, or is it Evolution? Revolution.
Evolution.
Evolution?
I thought it was Evolution.
Evolution.
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, Trials Evolution. And yeah, they had a lot of them there where, you know, you have to try and ride through rings of fire in the air, and if you miss one, then you'll fall, or you have to try and, you know, like roll yourself down a hill and hurt yourself and break as many bones as you can in your entire body. So there's a lot of stuff like that, and this one has added a whole bunch more of those, which are like extremely creative and very, very funny.
Cool. Alana, thanks for that review of Trials Fusion.
Yes.
What platforms is it available for?
It's available on the 360, the PS3, PS4, and the Xbox One.
It sounds, I don't know, I'd give it a go. It sounds crazy enough to be fun.
Yeah, they are honestly great games. I highly recommend them. I think the only thing is, if you didn't play a whole lot of games and you've played every Trials game, you're going to be like, well, this is the exact same thing.
Yeah, I haven't played any of the Trials games before.
Well,
so
then
I'm
play
intrigued.
this one.
Yeah. All right, that's going to bring us to the end of this week's episode, guys. Thanks a lot for listening. If you'd like more info on the show, check out our Facebook page, ZGamesAU. We're also on Twitter at the same handle. We also have a blog, zgamesau.net. All right, we're going to catch you next week where we'll be talking about Dark Souls 2, right, Lee?
Yes, we will. I will be braving the harrowing world of Drangleic and coming back, hopefully, alive or undead.
Or reporting from Valhalla.
Yes. No. Stop it.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. This has been Z Games, recorded live in Brisbane on 4ZZZ and heard nationally thanks to the Community Radio Network. For more information on the show and to join the Z Games community, head to our website, zgamesau.net, that's spelt Z-E-D, or send us an email at contact@zgamesau.net. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Z Games is produced with the assistance of the Community Broadcasting Foundation.